Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Sahara Omar. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist currently practicing in the state of Texas. In today's video, I wanted to continue on in our work together from previous videos on how do you truly start doing the work and get to a place where we are content and happy with ourselves and arrive at what we call wholeness as a human being. And unfortunately, we cannot get there if we do not know how to label our emotions. And you might say, why do we need to talk about emotions and label them correctly? So humans, we have experiences, right? Sometimes those positive experiences, and they could be negative experiences as well. So we need to learn how to label the emotions that are associated with that experience correctly, so that way we can pass away from that information, like pass away from that experience, right? So move forward. Another way to say that is we can file that information in our long-term memory and move forward and not find ourselves stuck in that story over and over again. So people, for example, who struggle with ruminating, right? So they go back to the same story over and over. What's happening is they got so good at ignoring their emotions. So they're very stoic in nature, where they do not know how to label their emotions. So they skip over it, but then the brain is doing that rehearsing over and over again, right? So I have here this emotion wheel that I found by this person, Roberts, I believe. So I am not fan of this green section. It's just I feel like personally it's just hyper extended version of other emotions, like sadness or disgust mixed together can be sometimes bad, right? But nevertheless, we'll use this as an example for now. There are other good options on Amazon, the ones that you can hang on your wall. But just look around and see if you can print a copy for yourself, and then you can start practicing how do you label your emotions based on the experiences that you're experiencing, okay? So before we go deeper, let's talk about how do you use this thing, right? Like how do you use this emotion wheel? So the center of the wheel is how you are feeling in your body. Okay, it's the emotion at the core, which is how you're feeling it in your heart. Okay, that's your core. And then the two outer wheels are ways that you are labeling your emotions logically in your brain. Okay, so when you are learning these wheels, so first you want to take some time and study all the words and the language around it, and then see if you can recognize, oh, this goes with this, right? Emotion at the core. So we'll go with happiness, for example, okay? And then I'll give you guys an example. So let's say somebody bought you flowers because you graduated, right? So then somebody else can ask you, well, how does that make you feel? Okay, we want to go back to labeling the emotion itself. So sometimes you might go right away at the center and say, I feel really happy, right? And then you can elaborate more, like why specifically happiness, like what type of happiness, right? And then you can explore a little bit more, like, are you thankful? That means it brings a sense of peace to you. It's peaceful. Is it because the person, you feel like they are loving you and they're coming from a loving place, right? So like your mom or your dad, then still it's going to lead you to being peaceful. So do you see, it helps you kind of explore and elaborate why happy, because happy is like the core, which is what you're feeling in your body, but your brain needs a little bit more information, so that way you can memorize things and remember things, and then you can come back to them later in the future when you recall happy memories, and then your brain can say, oh, I remember this moment when I was really peaceful and thankful because somebody got me flowers. Okay, so that's how you read the wheel. You're going to flow between all three, by the way. It's not really rigid, but the core is what we pay attention to in therapy, at least. And then usually I challenge my clients to kind of flow and kind of become a little bit more aware of their language, so that way they can process and move away from that event, especially when it's a traumatic event that happened, okay? So another thing that I notice a lot with my clients is they struggle mixing the emotions, right? So like fearfulness and surprise can sometimes feel the same because of this anxiety that shows up, right? But the main difference between those two depends on the experience itself. If it's a positive experience, it's going to be more surprise. So let's say like you're getting an award, or you're getting some sort of like a recognition, right? Or you being recognized for something, right? Like that makes you excited. So then this excitement can lead to a little bit more like exploring, like, is it because you are eager? Are you more energetic, right? So sometimes that energy can be misconstrued and labeled as anxious, right? And then other times it's the other way around too. Sometimes a person is in a fearful place, but they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And then you have to ask yourself or them, is this a good excitement, like a positive experience, or is it because you are in a bad situation that's leading you to be scared? So the point of this also is learning to not mix your emotions, so that way you can assign the right event with the right emotion, again, so that way your brain can file it in the long-term memory, okay? So in the beginning, I usually recommend just learn how to label all of these emotions and what emotion goes in what space, right? Sometimes I meet my clients who say things like, I'm numb, or I'm very annoyed with someone, right? So that's frustration. At the core, they're feeling angry. Numbness is a distraction from anger, for example, right? So if you're very cognitively oriented, you're going to start from usually outside, and the goal is to learn how to get to the core and feel that emotion in your body. So if you're angry, but you learned how to numb it, right? Like you're just feeling numb. So learning how to get angry a little bit, right? Like saying things like, that's not okay, and feeling that frustration in your body, that heat that comes with anger at times, right? Which is okay. We need to feel anger. Anger is a good emotion. We just need to learn how to express it in a healthy way, okay? So that's how you label your emotions. And then the other piece that I want to leave with you guys is those of you who are parents, typically you do want to start teaching your children how to label their emotions at the core, okay? And then as they are experiencing some experiences, you kind of get them to label their emotion either further out as the language is being developed. So language develops around, it starts around, I would say 1, right? Like 1 word here and there, papa, mama. But then 2-year-old, they kind of do a good job putting their sentences together. 3, they're doing a really good job. So by 3, they should be able to label their emotion depending on that language development piece too, right? So let's say if you're a mom or dad and your kiddo had like a milk and then they dropped their milk, you should be getting on their level, like get down on their level, label that event correctly for them, right? I know you dropped your milk, because milk is a loss, right? Like it's grief. You can't get it back anymore, right? So that's sadness, right? So it's okay to label it for them that I know we lost the milk. It's okay. That's sad, right? So then the baby now knows, okay, when I drop something and I lose it completely, unfortunately, that makes me feel sad, okay? So things like that, that's how you label your emotions with kiddos. Most of us, like myself, didn't have parents who did this kind of work, and that's okay. As we get older, the goal is to still do the work ourselves, right? So just take some time, learn the language, so that way when you're ready to revisit previous events, you can come back to the wheel and say, okay, this happened. This is the emotion that I felt at the time, but I wasn't allowed to express it. And then you give yourself permission to feel that emotion in therapy with somebody that you have that connection with, or like friend or significant other or anyone else that you feel safe with as well, okay? That is how we label our emotion. I hope that you liked this video. Please like, subscribe, and also share with other people as well too. Thank you, everyone.